Hello, welcome everyone. Today we're going to have another phenomenal guest on this topic that we launched a couple of weeks ago, the new path to conscious leadership. So I'm going to introduce him in just a minute, but I just wanted to say that in the next 10 years, the most successful organizations won't just be the most efficient, because efficiency will no longer be the competitive edge. It will be the baseline. The most successful organizations will be the most aligned, adaptive, and alive, honoring the human potential. And today I have someone that I have been following on LinkedIn and following his work, his posts, and they resonated with me so much because he comes across as very authentic, very efficient, and I feel like that our purposes are very much aligned. And this is Mark Y. He's an executive coach, phenomenal influencer in this world of consciousness. So I just wanted to welcome you, Mark. Thank you so much for being here.
Veronica, it's great to be here. We've met in person, but we didn't know it.
Yes.
we were at an online event and you were speaking, and later on I said, wait a minute, I know you. And we exchanged messages afterwards and laughed at the fact that we were in the same room without even knowing it several years ago.
Yeah, that's right. I can't remember if it was Las Vegas or
New York. It was New York. Yeah.
New York. Okay, super. All right. So I thought about you as a phenomenal speaker and phenomenal addition to what we're doing with this new series of the Path to Conscious Leadership because of the work that you do. Mm-hmm. And I know you post a lot of like super insightful, intentional wisdom nuggets and information for leaders to rise in their consciousness. So mm-hmm. Tell me, why do you care about this so much, Mark? I want to really start with you.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll jump right into the deep end here. Why do I care so much about it? In spiritual terms, I see myself as a light worker in the dark systems. And when I became a father 5.5 years ago, I started to care more deeply and look more deeply at how I can feel like I am contributing in a bigger sense to the world that my son is growing up in. And now I have a 6-week-old daughter as well. So my children are growing up in. And that frame really got me to think about how I can level up my own work, focus my work to deepen my impact. And that's what led me here to working with founders and senior leaders.
All right. So talk to me a little bit more about that. Mm-hmm. Because I know that this is not just doing coaching and elevating the performance of companies or leaders, but what you're talking about is like a different type of consciousness. What happened? What made you realize that this is what you needed to do?
Yeah, well, like a lot of the men that I work with, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this show as well, I was going through my own period of transformation, and about a decade ago, I was going through coming out of really a relatively rough time where my wife was sick for about 10 years. She was in a wheelchair, and I was really questioning like what's going on here. We uprooted our lives in New York. We moved to San Diego. And in that time, I began a deeper healing journey. And I had space. I was in my 30s. I had space in my life to explore, well, what do I really want to do here? I was running men's circles. I was very fascinated with soul-based work, really influenced by teachers like Paul Levy and Dr. Bill Plotkin. And so I started doing a lot of work on myself as well and exploring and doing things that I had always wanted to do, but didn't feel in my 20s I had time to do. So what do I mean by that? I started doing soul-based work on the land. I started going out to the desert, started doing my own vision quests, and doing a lot of deep dream work, and doing what Thomas Berry refers to as inscendence. So less of a focus on transcendence, transcending the ego, and more so on inscendence, which is really getting in touch with your unique contribution to the story of humanity and the world at large. And during that time, I'm summing up greatly here, there were a lot of moments. I went into the depth of Soul Canyon, and in that experience, it rocked me very much so in ways that it's hard to quite honestly articulate here, in words that make sense to everybody. But for those that, have gone through that experience, you know what I'm talking about. And if you want to go deeper into it, look up the term spiritual emergency. Christina Groff wrote a great book on that in, I believe, the 80s. And Stanislav Grof goes deeper into that as well. But what happened during that time where I was going through this real unraveling or dismembering was coming into a relationship with more so of who am I here in this world, and what's the role that I can really play with the gifts that I have. And on one particular moment, I went out alone in nature by myself, and I was just having a really challenging time. And I just said, what am I doing? What I'm screaming, I'm thrashing, I'm naked. I'm just really in it. And in that experience is when all of a sudden it came to me, what Joanna Macy refers to as, being a Shambhala warrior. And I saw very clearly how I have the ability to really work with business leaders who are shaping the industries, the outdated systems that really need a consciousness upgrade, to use the terminology that we're using today. So that's what I decided to do from that day on, was let go, surrender to that. If that's really what I'm meant here to do, well, then let me say yes to that. And it felt very strange. We can get into kind of why, but with my upbringing, it felt really strange. And I'll share one little anecdote. I'm at Goldman Sachs in New York, and I'm speaking on stage there, and they have this beautiful glass wall on the side, and I'm speaking, and there's like 500 senior leaders in the room, and I'm speaking to them about vision, about really stepping into their fullness, doing deep inner work, and really cultivating that sense of, well, who am I? What am I doing here? And how can I get out of my own way to really step into my power? And there's the Statue of Liberty right outside, and it's like the symbolic representation of Western success, like power. And I'm a boy, I was raised, I'm a boy from blue collar family in Buffalo, New York, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, having this big moment of, this is so strange. If I would have told myself as a kid, here I am doing this. But I surrendered to it, and it's been a really amazing opportunity. The real gift for me is getting to really be there, do the deep inner work with these powerful leaders, so that they cultivate a sense of, well, who am I, and what am I really meant here to do in the world, in a way that leaves the world better for our kids. And it's been a wild ride since.
Yeah, I love that, Mark. I also do executive coaching and training, and I go to New York or other places in the United States or Europe, and do this type of presentations. And I feel so inspired when I stand in front of these leaders, because there is a sense in me that feels and has I have the certainty that these are the leaders that can change the world.
Yeah.
And if I can contribute to an awakening of their expanded consciousness, of their higher consciousness, if I can contribute a little bit more to that light, and they can lead with this higher sense of purpose and consciousness, I feel like I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part in this movement, And I also have this holistic retreat here in Costa Rica, and I see how some of these leaders come here and do the work that you talked about. What is it? What is you call it? Not transcendence.
It was Thomas Berry. Yeah, Thomas Berry, was a powerful figure in the early 2090s. He wrote a book called, I think it's called The Great Work, and where he just reframes that in the spiritual context, we often talk about transcendence, which is transcending the ego. We are all part of one, which is part of it, which is so important. And our oneness is unique in the world, and there's only something that we can do in the ways in which only we can do it. And when we come closer into that and we own that I call that stepping into your power, into your inner authority. When we own that, doors unlock, just like Joseph Campbell talked about.
That's right. And what is the word?
Inscendence.
Inscendence. Okay, I
Yeah.
love it. That's the word that we're going to start using. Inscendence, transcendence, inscendence. All right. So talk to me. Let's go deeper on that,
Sure.
because we're talking about this concept that of the old paradigm, how
Yeah.
businesses are run as machines.
Yep.
And that's the old paradigm. And now we're talking about, what if we look at businesses the way we look at nature,
Yeah, definitely.
with its natural rhythms. And for some people, maybe, particular business leaders, business owners, that may not make sense, because the old paradigm teaches us that we must continue to go up and pressure, and we got to crush it every quarter, every year.
Yeah.
And then this new paradigm of conscious businesses. Then what is the new paradigm? What are we talking about when we talk about building more conscious businesses, more conscious leaders? Talk to me about what your philosophy is on this.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I have the right answer for that on an organizational level, because still very much the leaders that I'm working with, they still interface with that paradigm where if the stock's going up, if our revenue is going up, then those are signs of success and everyone's happy. I don't know the answer to what you're directly talking about, but what I have seen is that there are two types of high performing teams, and they look the same on a spreadsheet, right? And they're both crushing it in that type of terminology. They're both doing really well. They're both growing. But from my perspective, which I know you share as well, because we are lucky, Veronica, we get to go into these homes, these businesses, and we get to see how they define the word normal. And normal is a supposedly objective term, but no, it's not. It's subjective. We go into one company, we see what their normal is. We go into another, we see what their normal is. And so back to that idea of two high performing teams, again, on a spreadsheet, looking exactly the same. I go into one and I see a bunch of people joking about how much Ambien they have to take to go to sleep, about just how stressed out they are on what number of marriage they're on, how disconnected they feel from who am I outside of the metricable success of being a high performer, and how draining that can be in the older paradigm that you're referring to. Then we go into the other company, and again, same company on the spreadsheet, doing really well, still a high performing team, but people are coming home happy and fulfilled. People are coming home happy and fulfilled, and that has a ripple effect in how they show up to their kids, how they show up to their relationships, how they show up to their community, and even most significantly, how they're showing up to themselves, because they have energy. There's that life force vitality that when you're in alignment, right, you feel like a kid. We're so full of energy when that happens. Now, that's the impact that I know I play a role in, because if I help create more leaders that feel in alignment, that are building more teams that are coming home happy and fulfilled, people feel a sense of purpose, and that ripple effect in the businesses, in the communities, in the families, that's raising kids that are seeing what real, a life full of vitality looks like. Now, to your question, I don't know the exact answer around that, but I'd love to hear what you think based on what I just shared.
I actually think you started to answer some of it, because I do think that none of us has the perfect answer at this moment. We are on a journey to discovering this together, what it means to have more conscious businesses. But what you're alluding to is something that I have experienced when
Yeah.
I have led teams to high performance.
Yeah.
There was a shift in how I led when, before I went through this involution or ascendance or
Yeah.
transcendence of the ego, and I went through my own inner journey.
Yeah.
There was a clear difference of a Veronica, when Veronica led because I wanted to impress the leaders, where I wanted to impress the company. It was all about results, and everyone has to achieve those results. And I'm feeling the pressure, as you know, and therefore we must make everyone else feel, meet those expectations or surpass them.
Yeah.
Feel the pressure, because that's how we're going to make it. But when Veronica went through that inner healing and transformation, Veronica stop leading from the ego,
Mm-hmm.
and it became more about the human potential. It
Yeah.
became more about
Yep.
how can I lead in such a way from that consciousness that I had, so that my team is happy and they're
Mm-hmm.
able to bring that fruit, the fruits of their labors, their fruits of uh, their own, I would say, their own passions of what they're
Yeah.
doing, connected to the company's mission, and achieve a high level of performance through that different
Yeah.
sense of consciousness.
Yeah.
So I think there is something to that first, that, and I think we're, if I were to divide this in three parts. First, the leaders have to meet themselves.
Yep.
So who am I? Who am I? And then how am I leading from that sense of who I am? And then from there, the impact that it has into the people you lead and the rest of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that you alluded to in your answer. It
Yeah.
really starts with the self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So from here, tell me, in the work that you do
Mm-hmm.
and helping leaders align to themselves, and you brought up
Yeah.
that different times. What does that mean? What does that mean when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
speak to
Great.
them? And what is alignment?
Well, first of all, big question, lots of answers. And this is something I've come to really experience. So, you're asking me my own experience, and then there's also the question of what do I do in my work? And they're not exactly the same thing. At some point, and I certainly do this sometimes with some people, we do that deep soul excavating type of work. And that's, I'm assuming, what's likely happening very much at your retreat center. From what I see, it sounds like you both are doing that really well, and it's really beautiful. And we need those, those peak experiences outside of our normal life, in a different location, in a powerful setting, with the right container that you and your partner are cultivating there in Costa Rica. And I remember when you were talking about building it before it is what it is, and here I see it, and I haven't yet been there. I look forward to being there, but what I witness online is really, quite stunning. uh, um, Go back to your original question, because I realized I took us a little bit. You're asking me specifically about, oh yeah,
Alignment.
alignment. So what I'm doing now, because I'm trying to meet the people that I'm working with. And so the question of who am I, that's a big question, right? And there's a lot of ways to answer that. What starts off first is honestly going back to, well, what are your core values at this stage in your life? And a lot of people, what I found is that they've been aligning their success based on values that are actually out of alignment with their own. And it usually comes from your parents, it comes from your school system, it comes from the culture that you grew up in. And so step one is getting really clear about, well, what are your three to five core values right now? And are you setting your compass to work towards those? And through that conversation, getting really clear about what are your core values, that alone is usually game changing, because then people start making decisions based on what they actually truly deeply care about. I use something called the Hogan. I know you're familiar with it. I love the Hogan because, for one, it's known in the corporate space, but I use it in a different way. And I don't know anyone else that's using it the way that I do it. Originally, the Hogan was designed for HR to make the right hires, to think about team dynamics in terms of what are people's strengths, what are their derailers, and what are the values that are going to motivate them at work. That works, that's fine. What I found to be really effective is using the Hogan on this type of level that we're talking about. So someone goes, well, what are their values that actually drive them right now? What are their strengths? Are they actually owning them? And then what are their derailers, which is my favorite part, getting really clear about what are the ways that you're limiting or self-sabotaging yourself, and have you cultivated habits, have you done the inner work to actually overcome those? And through the method that I coach with, people are able to transcend those limitations. They're able to really step into their power. They're able to create a vision that is in alignment with what their values are. Sometimes that's scaling the business that they own or they operate in a different way. Sometimes it's actually jumping ship and going to a completely different business and selling the other one. That's fine. Both are fine. But it
Because it
really,
aligns more with their values.
because
So
it
that there
aligns
are
with your
decisions
values.
to be made
Exactly. Yeah.
based on that inner compass.
Right. And so that's the method that I currently use. It works really well, particularly for strive and drive type of leaders that are so used to white knuckling it, but then they wake up in their 40s and they go, this isn't working anymore. I'm actually more stressed out than I am motivated here. And I'm tired. I'm tired of waking up at 2 a.m, freaking out about all the stuff that, I'm holding on my shoulders here. And there's got to be another way. And there is. And that usually is the sign that you're ready for what I call second mountain work.
Okay, so talk to me more about what second mountain work
Yeah.
means.
Well, to use the language we're talking about today, the way I interpret it is first mountain is climbing that mountain that you were told to climb. And you went to school for it. You got that degree. You started up that business and you did it. You're successful. There's a lot of people now. Now, this is wild to me to think about because I did not grow up this was possible. Again, I saw my dad work a blue collar job where he retired at 65, crunching 35 or 40 years at a factory. There's a lot of people now that I'm working with that are 38, 42, just turned 40, and they kind of won the game. They have all the money that they need. They had the success. They've rung the bell on Wall Street. They have the things. They have the kids. They have the house. They have the house is paid off. They have the fancy car. And yet it's not working for them anymore. They go, wait a minute, what's next? And it's that what's next problem that used to happen more for the boomer generation in the 60s or 70s. Now it's happening at 40. And that's a really challenging problem to experience when you're still in it. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm not done. What's next for me? And so, again, for some, it's shifting the way in which they grow the business. And for others, it's jumping ship and starting something new. Both are totally fine.
Yeah. And it's very tough, right? Because when I coach people,
Yep.
is very revealing for me, looking at it from the outside now, how people get so stressed and so crushed.
Super. Yes.
When at a certain age, let's talk about it, 40s, in the 40s or late 30s, and they realize they're not happy.
Yeah.
That it's no longer working for them.
Or they're no longer happy. What once made them happy is no longer.
But exactly, I love it. What once made them happy no longer makes them happy, but they feel trapped.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because either they have a hard time and feeling that they could make the shift.
Yeah.
Especially they have been in the company or in the system for a while.
Right.
And I look at them and they're so powerful.
Yep.
They have achieved so much. What made them stop believing that they cannot replicate that level of success again and again somewhere else? Or even within the same company, how do they reinvent themselves? So actually one of my mantras that I share is like, take your power back. It's never about what happens in the company or what happens, anywhere else. It's like, how do you take that inner power that you have back? And from that, you're sitting on your throne, in the throne of your own inner kingdom. Just make decisions that empower you. Either can I elevate the circumstances that I find myself in right now? How can I do that? Or if not, is there a place that aligns more with what my soul is asking me to do? Yeah.
Well, I want to say two things on that, Veronica. I just want to pause for a moment and thank you for this conversation. I really appreciate you reaching out. This is my favorite thing to talk about. And for one, you're on your second mountain. From my perspective, you're on your second mountain. From what I see, highly successful, corporate life, highly successful executive coach decides to go down to Costa Rica to start a retreat center that isn't a traditional executive coaching retreat center. No, what are you talking about? That's
Are you crazy?
to some people, they're like, you are crazy.
Yeah,
Well,
you
you
are
are.
completely.
Anything that's crazy is because within that consciousness that people are viewing it, it is crazy because it's so beyond what they can see themselves doing, or that, it challenges their belief system so much. So you, my friend, are on your second mountain, and it's beautiful to witness you really step into that. So I want to be clear about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
The second thing is what we're talking about, to me, needs a reframe, because when you get to that level of what once drove me and motivated me and made me happy or brought a lot of fulfillment to my life no longer does, we kind of have this way of looking at it in a traditional, in the current paradigm, where it's like, oh, that's a problem. You
Mm.
have a problem. I want to throw that idea out, and I want to say, no, you're ready for a shift. You can call it a consciousness upgrade. You can call it whatever.
Oh my gosh,
It's
I
a
love that.
signal. It's a signal that means, oh, you're ready. And let's not just stay in the, in the clouds with this, because there's a ton of research now that is coming out, whether it's Robert Keegan out of Harvard or Bill Plotkin out of Animas Valley Institute, that is rekindling this idea of, wait a minute, we can evolve beyond our frontal lobe stopping at 25, but we have to put in the work to do it. Robert Keegan calls it moving from the socialized mind to the self-authoring mind. Bill Plotkin has his five phase, development wheel of what he calls stepping out of, adolescence and into true adulthood. And he argues that it's a tiny percentage of people that have really cultivated true adult or have become true adults. That's a whole thing we can unpack there. But I want to frame and say, if you're listening to this and you're going, wait a minute, this is me. I feel unhappy with what I used to be happy with, and I'm really having trouble with that. It's because likely you're in an environment that is influencing this belief that, oh, there's something wrong. That, wait, what's wrong with you if the power, the money, the impact in your
Or
organization,
the safety and the
or safety
stability, because
isn't.
sometimes it's just
Yeah.
about stability.
Totally. Yeah. And that's fine. That's okay. Stability, I get it. Trust me, I get that. But what I'm here to say is that, well, likely you're ready for the next mountain, which is the next shift in your life, from a consciousness level. And consciousness isn't a derogatory term. Sometimes it's thrown in this sort of like incendiary, like, oh, you're not conscious. No, it's that which you are aware of. And if you decide and you cultivate more awareness of what you're not aware of, we can call it shadow work, and you start stepping into more awareness of your shadow work, of the more than human world, of your own personal values, then all of a sudden things start to make sense, and you get to that, you start climbing that second mountain, and you see others, you meet other people like Veronica's of the world that are climbing their second mountain. You go, oh, okay, I'm not alone here anymore. This is great. Yeah, it's scary, but it was also scary when I started in my 20s.
Yeah.
We forget that. We forget how terrifying that was. But see, here's the thing. Everyone's doing that. Everyone gets out of college. You go through the grunt work, and then in your 30s, you start figuring it out. Well, the thing is, there's a whole bunch of other people that in their 40s, in their 50s, or whatever it is, 60s, they're on their second mountain. They're like, wait a minute, there's other people doing this too. Okay, I'm not alone anymore. And that not aloneness is often a shift where people are able to calm down, they're able to feel rooted, and they're able to feel more confident in climbing that second mountain.
It is, I guess, have more courage. And I do
Totally.
want to acknowledge something. I do want to acknowledge that it is different when you're making all of these courageous changes in your 20s as, making courageous changes in your 40s or 50s.
Totally different. Why is it different, though, do you think?
That's a very good question. Because if I can think about myself, is I, just like yourself, I don't come from parents that have, had a tremendous amount of money or anything like that,
Right.
I had to build everything that I built in my life, mostly myself. And it was a lot of dedication. If I can just even insert this part, I remember when I used to work for Bloomberg, and I was hired as an analyst, and we had 2 months in intense training of every asset class on the financial markets, derivatives, options, futures, mortgages. I mean, and understand how the mathematics work behind it and everything. And I remember when I first stepped in, and obviously I was given the role because I was already doing so well in a previous role. But I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I joined this immersive, grueling training, that I was surrounded by people whose
Mm-hmm.
parents were hedge fund managers and had all of these successful careers, and they had that experience of having parents teaching them a lot of giving them a lot of tools since they were young. In my
Yeah.
case, I remember I sat there into the equities and then fixed income class, and I said, oh my goodness, I will not be able to leave at 6 p.m. Class started, I think, at 8 and finish at 6 every day for 2 months. And I told myself, I cannot afford to leave at 6. I'm going to have to stay here until 10 p.m. every day so
Yeah.
that I can figure this out because I'm starting from zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did that for many years of my life. Like, I mean, I remember working until 10 p.m. for at least 2 years so that I could nail this down. I
Oh
could
yeah.
understand everything. And
Yep.
not only one language, I had to do it in 4 languages, French, Spanish,
Wow.
Portuguese, English. And then I remember talking to clients from Europe, everything. Now I'm giving you this example because for you to understand how hard I had to work to even get to what I was able
Yeah.
and blessed to be part of and these amazing companies. And then, like you and me, knowing that we didn't have that supportive system, we started from a baseline
Yeah.
of it's just us. And then having achieved all of this to say, hey, I'm going to just shift a different direction. I'm going to risk everything that I have,
Yeah.
everything that I own, into creating this new dream
Yeah.
at my age.
Yeah.
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 It's not fun. The anxiety, anyone, I made it part of my life purpose to help anyone who feels like they started to panic. Like, what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah.
And it feels like you are disappearing, like everything
Oh
that
yeah.
you have done starts to just disappear and you're starting
Yeah.
again
Yeah.
nothing. But I think the shift, if I can just add this, is that you're
Yeah.
not starting from nothing.
Yeah.
You have already a whole life experience and some sort of baseline. But I do understand the fear. This hasn't been, that word hasn't been mentioned here. The
Mm.
fear can rule our world, whether we're in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. We fear our boss, we fear the organization, we
Yeah.
fear being let go, we fear, and then fear gets such a strong hold of our emotional stability or emotional well-being that stops us from
Mm.
really stepping into the full expression of our greatness.
Yeah.
I just want to stop right there because I know you have a lot more to say about that, and we only have a few minutes left, but I want to give this back to you.
Yeah. There's so much there, and I if there's if there's feel free to push, and because there's a lot in what we're talking about here, right? And my first response to it is that fear is your greatest teacher, and that's not meant to be a fortune cookie saying or something you see on a tea bag. It's a real thing, and I'm not saying that that's easy. Turning towards your fear, turning towards that dragon that you feel breathing right next to you, sounds poetic. It's extremely challenging. And even if you're surrounded by a bunch of people that are doing it with you, it's still going to be a soul journey for yourself. That's literally what ascendance means. You're going into your own uniqueness. And that can be really challenging. And so, and we see a lot of people perhaps even jumping into that too soon, too deep. They're like, I'm going to face that fear, and so I'm going to go do an ayahuasca journey. And that's great. I get that, but for some people, that's actually too much too soon. And coming back into their world, it's too much of a disconnect, and it's hard to really integrate the lessons you learn when you face that fear. But facing your fear, I often one of my teachers, Robert Falconer, talked about the story of Milarepa. You may have heard about it, but long story short is it's a yogi sage who was in the mountains, and as he was meditating, all these demons kept coming towards him, and he would sit, and the demons would still be there. he would say no to the demons and the demons would still be there. And then one day he decided to stick his head in the mouth of the demon that was saying that it wanted to, eat him. And then all of a sudden the demons disappeared. And so the kind of moral of that, parable there is the idea of when you really face your fear and you say, you don't have control over me, I'm not afraid of you, all of a sudden it dissolves. And then through that, you're able to see, you're like, oh, wait a second. Now, on a more specific, kind of scientific lens, we're talking about our conditioning. When we step out of our conditioning and we decondition, which can feel like unraveling, we're going into some core beliefs that were framed during our developmental phase in life. So we're not only, by doing this type of work we're talking about, Veronica, we're not only dismantling the belief system that our parents or our schools or the religion we were raised in taught us, we're also battling the paradigm that we live in, and we're challenging the belief systems that we still live in today. And when you do that, that's like a double hook right there, because it's not only coming into your own belief system, which is to, again, challenge your parents and your upbringing, but it's also challenging the paradigm of what the government, of what the world is saying is okay, is normal, and that is really, really hard to do.
And it's powerful work. I mean,
Yeah.
Mark, I think we can talk forever about this, and there's just so much we can dive into, but we just have a second episode together. But I want to leave everyone with this thought that you brought up.
Mm-hmm.
It's about really not necessarily getting rid of our fears, but just facing them, because sometimes you cannot just tell yourself, don't be afraid, hey, it's going to be okay. Maybe you can say that to yourself, but really walking through the storm when that is your soul's path. And listen to this, when that is your soul's path, if it is not, use fear as information to say that may not be your path. But then use also fear and alignment, what you're talking about, like your inner compass. Like my inner compass told me, I experienced some amazing healing in my life. I want other people to experience the same. And I wanted to build something that can also hold that vortex, that container of transformation for others. And that meant I had to let some amazing things go. But did I feel fear? Absolutely, exactly the same fear that you talked about. So I love how you explain it, Mark, because I had to just go in and put my head in the mouth of the monster and say, I am terrified. But this is my soul's purpose now. And I'm going to move forward.
Yeah, it's beautiful, Veronica. Could I add one thing to that?
Yes.
So in the type of modality that I use, when I'm working with let's say a guy who runs a company, and they come into a relationship with that fear, and, I can give some more specific examples, but what happens is you come into a relationship with that fear, and you realize that fear was formed at a very specific time in your life, usually around middle school or around early adolescence.
A child.
Yes. Yeah, or a young child, right? Exactly, in that pre-verbal developmental phase. So the work is, and this is what I love about this, right? Because no one knows you're doing this when you're interacting with your company or with stakeholders. This is all inside. This is the your inner work game. And so what happens is you come into a relationship with, oh, that happened at, let's say, when I was 8 years old. Oh, and I was in that middle school or that elementary class, and oh wow, I totally forgot about that thing. Here's where the magic happens. You go back into that memory, that time capsule of a memory, and you introduce yourself with incredible love and big-hearted energy. You introduce yourself to that younger part of you, say 8 years old, as the man that you are today, or as the adult that you are today, and you be there for that 8-year-old in ways in which no one else was, and you reconnect and you say, hey, I'm here for you. All right. And I'm going to be here for you, with you now for the rest of my life. Now that we've rekindled that connection, You're not alone. I'm here with you. I call this refathering, or releading yourself.
Refathering.
I like refathering because that has to do with the men's work, and I work a lot. I speak a lot with men's health, and so when you're able to do that, that fear decreases, because when you go and face that thing that's scaring you, or that you have that fear in your in your work and in your life, you then go, hey, 8-year-old, come with me. You're here with me. All right. And I hear you. I see you. I love you. I respect you. And I'm going to hold you just like we would with our kids as we face this fear together. You're not alone. And when you're able to do that, again, no one knows you're doing this. You're doing this in your own inner world. But when you go ahead and you do that, it decreases that stress level to a way where it's actually healthy. It's a healthy stress level, and you're able to grow, and it doesn't take you out. And the more times you do that, the more the stress decreases. And what was once scary, what was once full of fear, is now something that's a new normal for you.
Absolutely. I love that. And in regards to that topic, I also recently thought about this, is that yes, our adult self can refather, remother that child
Yeah.
in those moments of trauma where that
Yeah.
child felt afraid or unstable, and some lost their moms or
Yeah.
fathers when they were little, or something traumatic happened, and the adult reconnects with that inner child, and there is a conversation, there is a reconnection where the adult can say, I'm here now,
Yeah.
and we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And also, what was added in my own, I think, meditations, or this sense of the child also speaking to you,
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Look how far you have taken me, and
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. So for you to reconnect with that child who's so grateful for who you have become, Mark, and that child is so, so, so amazed by you. And if you remember that, that child already also knows that how far you come, and that you're now walking together, and that it's going to be okay no matter what. And I just want to ask to close this, because it has been one of my most favorite conversations. And I think what we're talking about is that the work of creating more conscious leaders and more conscious organizations starts with us. And I just want you to leave us with some final thoughts.
Well, I think you're right there. Whenever we feel the call that, hey, I need to change something outside of me, that's the signal to hold up the mirror and change something inside of you. And it's
Whoa.
not through force. It's not through overcoming. It's not through white knuckling anymore. It's a complete inversion. It's actually coming home. It's that courageous compassion of being there for your
Love
in which
that.
no one else was.
Oh my gosh. It's not through force. It's not through anything else, but it's about coming home to yourself.
Right.
Amazing, Mark. Amazing. Your clients, the companies you work with, are very lucky to have you. So thank you so much for blessing me with this conversation today. And we'll be doing this again for sure.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Veronica. Appreciate you.
Thank you. The same.